some of us, it was a good weekend. For one of us, at least, it was not a good weekend here on the Calcio Guys, episode 205. Adreano, Gianni, I'm Nicholas. How you guys doing?
Pretty well. Much better than last week from when I was sick. I'm feeling much better today. What about you guys?
Yeah,
I guess I'm supposed to start the show and start just smashing everything. Is that what my role is? Happy to see Gianni back. Happy to see Gianni back in good spirits, and happy to be back. Obviously, 205, like you said, Nick, episode, and yeah, let's get to it.
No tables will be smashed in the recording of this episode. So, for people for the ethical treatment of tables, don't worry, we'll be safe. Lots of calcio, lots of interesting stories this week. Serie A Matchday 11. We'll talk about some Champions League coming up. Also, Tuesday, Wednesday this week, some Europa League and Conference League on Thursday. But guys, normally we talk Juve, normally we talk Inter, normally we talk Milan, Roma, Lazio. But guys, there's another team that's not so quietly in sixth place actually, that's lost one game. First game of the season they've lost, and they've gone 10 straight games without losing now. Probably the hottest team in Italy, Bologna. 4 wins, 6 draws in that span. But big win Friday against Lazio. 6th place right now, just ahead of Roma. I know we've spoken about Bologna in the past, but this team they're this season's Cinderella story. You know, they're probably not going to make top 4. They're probably not even going to make top 5. Even 6th place might be a challenge for them to sustain throughout the season. But they want to play in Europe at least next season. You know, finish around 6th or 7th, get even in the Conference League. As I mentioned, Friday it was Lewis Ferguson with the goal in the 46th minute against Lazio. I know you guys probably don't watch too much Bologna, but you know, seeing highlights or whatever, just trying to talk about the league. How long do you guys think this team could even sustain this? Because personally, I do think this is somewhat sustainable. Because we knew they were a decent team. You know, we knew they were always a mid-table team, and to make that jump up, we knew that they needed a bit of talent and coaching, and that's what they have this season. I think Thiago Motta is a fantastic coach. We saw that in his past endeavors with Spezia and even with Genoa. Maybe not so much with Genoa, but what he's done this season is fantastic. We know that Bologna even has a good project led by Joey Saputo and Marco Di Vaio. They've made investments into this team, and you've seen it. And you've seen a player like Orsolini, who came into this team a couple of years ago, young player, but he's grown. He's hitting his prime now. He's the star of the team. He's no superstar in the league by all means, but for a team like Bologna, he's exactly what they need. But at the same time, you got players like him, and this Bologna team. Once they'll probably have a good season this year. They'll probably finish 7-6, but those guys are going to be sold to bigger clubs next year, so they'll enjoy while they can with these guys. But how long can they sustain it for this season?
Well, for Bologna, I mean, how long they can sustain it is how long their bench is willing to go. Definitely, they have a good core going, and they're finding an identity, and they're establishing a nice little gel between them as a unit. But it really depends on how much their bench can sustain it. Now, obviously, they don't have the extra burden of playing in different international competitions. It's just the Coppa Italia to worry about. Actually, are they still in it? Yeah, I think they're still in it. I don't think they got eliminated from it. Yeah, besides that, there's not much extra competition for them. So will they be exhausted? Not necessarily, but there's games where it's like, especially when you play against the Giants towards the end of the season, they still have talent coming off their benches to keep them fighting, whereas Bologna, they don't have too much coming out for them. So I'm not trying to be a hater. It's good for them, and it's exciting to see, and some hard work is paying off, but we're only 11 games into the season, and we've seen times where teams started off hot and they had a dip. Just this season, like Frosinone had that amazing start, and then look what happened. It's streaks come and go. So, I don't think that I don't think they're going to go to the bottom half of the table, But to maintain that European competition spot, I think they lose it towards the end by bare minimum, but not in a terrible way.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've spoken about this before, and obviously, like you said, Nick, the hot topic is Bologna right now. And rightfully so. They deserve their flowers. They've been playing some great culture, and the record speaks for itself. They're now in sixth place, like you said, and we had spoken about this earlier in other episodes. Seeing like Kane crack into Europe next season, what have you, and I think I'm still sticking on my point that I still think there's just too much competition in those spots for them to realistically stay there. Is it possible? Sure, anything's possible, but especially with some form of some of the teams that you would kind of expect to be there. But at the end, I think those teams will prevail. And I just think it becomes a numbers game. There's only so many spots for Europe, right? So. Do they have the quality? Yes, they have some quality players. I mean, their forward, Joshua Zirkzee, this year has been another player that's kind of gone under the radar, scoring a lot of goals, providing. You said Ferguson, obviously, as well. Orsolini is the big man, on that ship there. But I think it also. How long they can stay healthy is another thing for them. Like Gianni said, the bench, the depth that they do have is obviously nowhere near comparable to the top teams. But for me, I'm still sticking on my point, like I said, of it being a numbers game, and there's just been so many limited spots and so much competition in that 5 to 7 range. So because what we see, the Romas of the world, the Lazios of the world. The Atalantas of the world, the Fiorentinas of the world, like where are we going to lie with these teams trying to crack Europe? And then whoever falls from top 4, I don't know, we'll see. So just purely on that, I'm going to stick to that point. But have they been exciting this season? Absolutely. Does Thiago Motta deserve credit for what he's been able to do? Absolutely. Does the team deserve their flowers? Absolutely. There's a lot of positives that's gone on. They took that loss to Milan first game of the season, and they really haven't looked, that same Bologna from then. So, and they've done it. The results that they've had, besides the loss to Milan in the opening match day, they picked up points against some of these big teams already. If I'm not mistaken, they picked up points against Inter. They picked up points against Juve. They picked up points against Lazio. So that's what's been most impressive. Again, the sustainability of it is, for me, it's going to be tough come the end of the season because, guys, the calendar is 38 games. It's not only 11. So we'll see how it goes near the end. But I'm glad we brought this topic up again because, like I said, Bologna and Thiago Motta, the players, Saputo, Di Vaio, the management, definitely deserve their praise for what they're doing in such a competitive league.
I think saying whether or not they'll do well, it depends also your point of view of defense wins championships because they have 8 goals against. Two of them came in the first game against Milan, 6 in the 10 game since. That's good enough for third in the league, third best defense in the league. Only teams better are Juve and Inter. They went on a 4-game stretch without conceding. On the flip side, only 12 goals for, which is also not one of the lower ones in the league, but there are other teams below them in the standing that have scored more. So I think for a team in their position, as long as they could continue defending, well, that will carry them forward. And then, Adreano, you did make a mention of their results. They tied Napoli 0-0. They tied Juve 1-1. They tied Inter 2-2, and they beat Lazio. So, Gianni, you did mention, they still have to play the big teams. They played some of the big teams. They haven't played Roma yet, but it's
more like on the return leg type.
No, I know. I understand. Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting. It's a team to watch. Maybe we'll have to have Nick Diani on later on, Bologna super fan, to talk about them. But on the flip side, Lazio, not so good this season. I know we've talked about it. I know we're beating a dead horse, but 10th place right now, 5 wins, 5 losses, and a draw. 16 points, 5 points off of 4th place. I don't know if a coaching change is the right call, because I think this is a squad issue. I think this is a talent issue. Letting Milinkovic-Savic go alone is such a big loss for Lazio. It shows. Do you guys think a coaching change with Sarri would solve the problem?
Not right now. And that's my opinion right now. I know some fans are obviously calling for his head currently. For me, again, I don't have the facts in front of me, but when was the last time a team changed coaches at this point of the season, maybe January, and things just went from bad to amazing just with that flip of a switch. So I don't know. I don't see it happening. I don't think it will. Will it happen maybe in the summer? Very possible. But for me, and I'm going to stick to my point, even if I'm in a disadvantage, or I'm in the minority, I still think this squad has something. They do have players of quality. This is a team that maybe they did overachieve last year. Maybe they did. But again, they still, besides the SMS loss, which again, I put my hands up and say that's an absolute huge loss, because I've always said it, and we've always said it on this show, that he's one of the better midfielders in this league, or was through all these years. But I still do think they have quality. They've added some pieces these past couple of seasons that have helped with the depth issue. They fixed up their defense last season, at least. This season, I don't know what it is. I don't think. I'm personally not on the train of it's a talent thing, because I think mainly for me it's more the mentality. This team goes into games, they look not even interested in playing. And then they go into games where they should be winning these games. And again, we always say no easy games in Serie A. Take every team for their strongest, but there's games where they should have won, and they didn't. They didn't capitalize on their momentum there. So for me, that's the biggest thing. And I don't know if that's the Sarri effect on this team. If there's a breakup in the locker room, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. But what I do know is that this team, in my opinion, still has some quality. It's for me, it's all up here. It's all mental for right now, because already going into this season, they look sluggish. Like, this team didn't even come in with a pep in their step. They already came with cement boots on the pitch. So I don't know what that's about. But at the same time, like I said, there's games they don't look interested. There's games they don't show any type of fight, any grinta, and it has fans pissed off, because I think they expect a lot more, obviously, and they're not really seeing it. Did we expect Lazio to be second place last year? Absolutely not. At least I didn't. They're in Champions League. They're trying to play good football. We know how Sarri is. It's year 2, 3 going on Sarri. Maybe the project is over with him. Maybe. I just don't know who they would bring in right off the top of my head. But to overall answer the question, I don't think right now is the time, because they could have been. There could be a lot worse states they can be in. Obviously, as a fan, you don't want your team to be where they're at when you know they could be better. But there's been worse situations, and I think, if they really wanted to, they should have done this in the summer, not have to drag on to the winter mercato and then maybe sack them, around the holidays, and that's kind of how I see it. But if it didn't happen last summer, I don't personally see it happening in the winter. All things point to maybe the breakup happening in the summer, and maybe Lazio has to start fresh come that summer market.
Gianni, I think for Lazio, with Derby coming up, it couldn't be a better time to have a Derby, because they've beat Roma the past 2 games, including 3 of the past 5. Roma's only won 2 in the past 8 meetings, I think.
The rest were draws, though.
Yeah, it's two draws, 2 wins, and 5 wins for Lazio in the past 9. But do you think this is a type of game for Roma where they kind of need to be careful, because they just had a big win against Lecce? We could talk about that if you want. Mm-hmm. And then, Lazio, okay, I know it's only 1 loss. They won their past 3 games. But there seems to be a mentality problem, as Adriano said. Do you think for Roma, the derby coming up this weekend is kind of like I wouldn't say a trap game. It's a derby. It's a derby, Gianni. Like anything could happen, but they need to be careful, right, Roma?
Always. Especially when a team like Lazio is trying to, like gain some footing and they also have some frustrations. What better way to rebuild your momentum than a derby win, Roma last game against Lecce, the scoreline does not reflect how the game was. They totally dominated their Lecce. I think it was something like, hold on, I have the stats right here. I pulled it up. So first of all, the expected goal scales was like 2.12. So they eventually got what they deserved, but like 61% possession, 15 shots total, but only 5 were on target. Some beautiful opportunities by Dybala, some curlers that were a bit too short. A post hit, was there a post? Yeah, I think there was one. Overall, the scoreline it should have been higher for Roma. They really tried their best. Lukaku, I felt it was a bit of a week of a PK, but still well placed one. It just so happened that
right down the middle, no?
No, it was a bit towards the left. It's just Falcone just guessed it perfectly well. It was it was slightly to the left. It had a bit of like a little dip to it, so it was kind of tricky. So Falcone managed to squeeze his legs on it to stop it from squeezing through. So but yeah, great win. Obviously, they're happy with that, but they just got to be careful going into it. I know they're not going to take the derby lightly. No team does. But for Lazio specifically, just when you think they're having inconsistencies, next thing you know, they beat Napoli, for example, and they were on like a 2-game losing streak at that point to start the season. It's a team that when you think that, okay, count them out, they don't count them out. Could be a wonderful game for Immobile to find some stride. I don't know, but it's what it is for me. Mostly, it's just the back line for Roma that I have little doubt in. Offensively, I feel like as if they can be fine. It's just the back line this year for Roma has been their Achilles heel, which is weird because last year was one of their stronger points. Now it's one of their weaker points. And Rui Patricio is starting to show why teams kind of let him go after a few seasons because he starts to have a bit of a dip or a decline after staying in the same spot, especially when I feel like as if he's comfortable in that role in the sense that he doesn't feel pressured that he's losing his spot to anyone. You can see the complacency starting to settle. So who knows? It could be a good win. It also could be a very embarrassing loss. For my personal feelings and perspective, it's probably gonna be like another draw. It's probably gonna be something like a 1-1 draw where it's just opportunities just aren't going in, and both teams have to scrap for their one goal. So I'm leaning towards a 1-1 draw for that game.